All right, in our last video we talked about the difference between demand and quantity demanded, and also the law of demand as being that inverse relationship between the price of a good and how much consumers will buy of it. This video we're going to look about why the law of demand holds true. On page 52 and 53 in your textbook you have a discussion of these concepts of the income effect and the substitution effect. So that is what we're going to examine here in this video. Again, law of demand, quick review: as prices change, so does the amount of a good or service. Right? The demand doesn't change. Remember, the demand, that entire relationship, the relationship doesn't change from price. Only the quantity demanded, only the amount of it that we will buy. Think of it, you do not feel differently about that good or service just because the price changed. Will you buy more or less? Absolutely. Absolutely. But how you feel about it does not change. So we're going to look at this idea of the substitution effect and income effect. Substitution effect of a price change. So there's two reasons the law of demand will always hold true. The first being this idea that when the price of a good changes, in this case falls, gets cheaper, right? That good becomes cheaper relative to its substitutes. And the definition of a substitute is a good that is similar in its consumption. So if we look at here, first one I always use is pretty simple. Coke and Pepsi, we all know what those are, would be considered close substitutes of each other. Are they the same? Nope. Many people would argue that Coke is completely different than Pepsi, but as far as consumption, they're relatively close. So the price of Coke, as that changes, is going to impact the consumer's demand for Pepsi, and vice versa. These are related in consumption. We call them substitutes. So if we go back here, as the price of one good falls, Coke for instance gets cheaper. Coke is cheaper relative to Pepsi. Consumers will substitute Coke. So Pepsi drinkers will then be more apt to maybe try Coke instead of Pepsi due to the relatively cheaper price. And this works in the other direction as well. Prices get more expensive, and we move from one to the other. Another example with steak and chicken. If the price of steak goes up, we might see the quantity demanded. Can't spell. The quantity demanded for chicken, there we go, that is not even close. The quantity demanded for chicken also increased. Those would move relative to each other, right? Price of steak goes up, the quantity demanded for steak is going to go down because people are buying chicken instead. That's the idea behind this substitution effect. Okay, it's a relative price from one good to another, relative to the prices of other that are similar in consumption. Second, okay, is this income effect. The income effect of a price change has to do with a change in this concept right here we call real income. Prices don't change the money income that you have. They don't change the size of your paycheck, but they change your real income. If you think of real income as purchasing power, kind of helps you make sense in how powerful your income is. If you have a $20 bill, it's just going to go further than it did because prices are now cheaper. Just filled up with gas this morning. Typically, to fill up my Pathfinder, it takes about $45. That's what it's taken on average the last year. Today, it only cost me like $31. So the reason for it, obviously, is gas prices are cheaper. $1.88 a gallon or something like that, when I've been paying $2.75 over the last year. I now have, it's like I have more income. And my real income has increased. My money goes further when it comes to purchasing goods and services, in this case gasoline. Okay. This also introduces this concept of a normal good. So we've got normal versus inferior. And think of a normal good, go here, normal good as any good that you're going to buy more of. So normal, demand will go up as income goes up. And this is going to be subjective for different people. Okay? Demand goes up, income, as your income goes up. Demand will fall off for normal goods as your income decreases. So these are the things when we're making more money, when we have more money, we're going to tend to buy more of these things. Inferior goods, okay, inferior, your demand will go up for inferior goods as your income goes down. So example of something like that might be generics or off-brands or things that are relatively cheaper that we wouldn't normally purchase if we didn't have to. So some people now have been laid off due to what's going on with COVID-19. They don't maybe know when their next paycheck is coming, so they are stocking up on or buying food that maybe they wouldn't normally buy. They're buying less steak dinner and they're purchasing more ramen noodles. As they get back to work, get back to normal, get their job back, and maybe we see our income rising and our demand for the normal good, in this case it would be steak, is increasing, and our demand for the inferior ramen noodles would be decreasing because our income is going back up. So inferior, demand goes up for inferior goods as our income falls. Inferior demand falls as our income goes up. So it's kind of an important idea, understand normal good versus inferior. And these could be different for different people. What's normal for me and normal for you might be completely different. What's inferior to me and inferior to you could be completely different. This is, again, all subjective. All right? And that should be it for this one.